All right, everyone, it's time for some health news. Chaga disease is now endemic within the United States. Now, there have been cases for a number of years. It's called the kissing bug disease. I'll get to the symptoms and so forth in a moment. It's called the kissing bug disease, and it can be deadly, by the way. In some cases, it can become chronic. It is treatable, but at the same time, a lot of times people will get it. They don't even know they have it, and then years later, all of a sudden, symptoms flare up, and it's easier to prevent it early on in the infection stage if you do get it. Thankfully, most of the time, it tends to be a more mild disease, but it's still a problem, and it's now endemic. It was just declared endemic the other day after years of having sporadic cases where it's like, well, it hasn't really taken root in the United States, in the continental United States. Unfortunately, it now has taken root. Now, the symptoms involve like basic flu-like symptoms, headache and chills and things of that nature. That's in the acute phase. But it can remain in the system for a considerable length of time with or without any symptoms at all, and it can in some cases kill you. There is a measurable death rate associated with the kissing bug disease, with Chaga. So it's unfortunate it's become endemic. Their efforts to prevent that from happening failed about as spectacularly as keeping killer bees out of the continental United States. They tried that for a number of decades. Their efforts were not entirely successful, as you will see. Thankfully, as I posted the other day, killer bees will not be a problem in a century or so. They're beginning to devolve away from aggression because the more aggressive hives are the ones that get more often gassed or burned or something like that. Interesting evolutionary trait, but Shog is now endemic. Kissing bugs are like these they look a little bit like those little beetles that you see climbing on the trees and they have like the long snout sort of thing. And they call it the kissing bug because it's attracted to the CO2 that is emitted when a person is sleeping. Of course, they're breathing and they're not awake, so they usually don't even notice that they've been bitten, by the way. But the kissing bug will come up towards their mouth usually and kiss them. That's why it's called the kissing bug, near the mouth, and then will drain a bit of blood, and the person can get infected. Now, that doesn't mean that every kissing bug has Chaga, which is why I don't expect its spread to really. I mean, there are kissing bugs, I think, everywhere in the United States, actually. I think they can survive colder climates, if I remember correctly. But as far as the actual disease, the Chaga disease that's being transmitted now endemically, right now that is more of a problem south of the Mason-Dixon line, in places like Arkansas and Texas and so forth, places down there. But it will spread. It's inevitable because people move around and the bugs can move around, and slowly it will outgrow from there. Now, the good news is that transmission of this disease is not terribly common. And of course, again, not every kissing bug has Chaga to actually transmit in the first place. Just like not every mosquito has malaria to transmit when it bites you. So hopefully this doesn't become a significant problem. It probably won't. And this is the other thing. I wanted to get out ahead of this because anytime that there's a novel introduction of disease, I've become primed to assume that it's going to be misused for some sort of authoritarian purpose because there's been a major example in recent living memory of this happening. I wonder which disease I'm referring to. It's the disease that shall not be named. It's the Voldemort disease, the one that you can't talk about too much on YouTube unless you have appropriate opinions that are sanctioned by the CDC and the WHO and the NIH and by Anthony Fauci and people like that and Bill Gates. If you agree with them, you're allowed to say whatever you want. If you disagree with them, you can get banned for that. At the very least, don't expect to get ad revenue on that video. I don't have that problem, but some people do. Chaga is, therefore, it's not likely to become a major concern. But in a few cases, it probably will be concerning when somebody, 2 years after they get bitten, all of a sudden comes down with what they think is the flu, and 5 weeks later they're still sick. and then they have to go in for screening. Another problem with more rare diseases, because there aren't that many cases in the United States, is that the method to actually purge the disease may not be more readily available. Screening for that disease is much less likely because it's uncommon. So typically they're not going to screen for it at all. Oh, you've got flu-like symptoms. Then you have the flu, or maybe the cold, or you have the Voldemort disease or something like that, because the symptoms are going to look roughly the same. Oh, it's just stress. You're overtired. That's why you're having headaches and feel, shiftless and stuff like that. So they won't screen for it. So a person might walk around sick for a prolonged period of time with this disease. Again, it's unlikely to kill a person, but it can make them miserable. He's got that particular reputation. Yeah, the kissing disease is now endemic in the United States. That's about all. Peace out.